Hi everyone, so this is my response for Unit 4 on stress management. And the first question asks, what professional career are you currently or intending to pursue? Intend to pursue? Well, I tend to pursue a career in coaching, more specifically physical education, kind of at the community college level. I'd love to coach swimming if plausible. However, I'd just love to be an instructor for physical education. I just spoke with a coach recently, and he was telling me, yeah, I got to start out at the high school, kind of build a background, or K to 12, and so I might do that first prior to trying to join the community colleges where I ideally want to work. Um, so the second question asks specifically identify 5 sources of stress you think those in this career typically encounter. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stress for that comes with being a coach. More specifically, I feel like being a physical educator, you got to know how to manage your time wisely. So time management is actually a huge build up on stress in terms of being a coach and a physical educator. I kind of knew one guy who was a professor at a college. Just recently, actually, this happened, and he actually hung himself due to the stress from all the different aspects of becoming a professor. It turns out he took his job so seriously. He was a UCLA researcher that he actually couldn't keep up with the curriculum. He was starting to develop Alzheimer's, and he just ended up, committing suicide. And it's sad because he was a really smart individual, very well recognized and respected at UCLA and by his family members. So it's kind of sad to see that. Also, what's really another kind of stress that a physical educator coach might encounter is kind of dealing with more of the educational setting and kind of trying to keep to the standards and moreover trying to keep towards certain guidelines and developing on point in terms of keeping up with the material. It's going to be really stressful for a physical educator to kind of keep up with the recent fads, facts. A lot of physical educators I know and a lot of coaches I know are constantly working to compete. So another stress might be that they have to always try to do their best. And by doing their best, they have to keep up with the recent facts and the recent data and kind of have to have a lot of knowledge about the sport and a lot about the activities that they're trying to teach. And, kind of get to know their athletes. But I think moreover, in terms of stress, that when physical educators and coaches are at a community college, for example, or at a high school, they're actually looked upon and they're actually reviewed by the athletic director. So the athletic director looks at how many wins they have, how many losses they have, what kind of players are they recruiting, how are they recruiting them. So it's a lot of stress in terms of that. I mean, there's a lot of stress in terms of being a physical educator and a coach. I think more specifically, in terms of financial, I think they are financially stable. I was just talking to a coach the other day who's a basketball coach at Valley College, and he makes $100,000 a year. Well, it's a lot of money, in my opinion, $100,000 a year. But he says that the job does come with a lot of stress, but at the same time, he enjoys what he does, and it's kind of his passion. But there are coaches out there that I know personally who don't make nearly as much as 100,000 or nearly as much to get by in life. I know coaches who work adjunct, and I know one coach, for example, at Valley College. He's actually really stressed out. I mean, this guy, he got cut back big time because they had a new department chair. I'm not going to mention any names, but he was really laid off in terms of the classes that he was able to receive, that he used to be able to get. He was a swim coach. They kind of let him go. After he was a swim coach, he worked at the college as an adjunct, and he still continues to work as an adjunct. But in lieu of having 5 classes per semester, now he only has about 2 classes or even 1 classes, or even having all his classes canceled altogether. That has happened due to low enrollment. Now he's complained to the union. Kind of the union works for full-timers and part-timers. Their priority is more toward full-timers. That's according to one of the basketball coaches. But I think that it's important, to understand that there are going to be financial issues at times. I mean, there are financially stable coaches, and they're probably more lucky than most are, because it's really hard to get a full-time position at a community college and also a full-time coaching position. I mean, I mean, film, for me personally, I'm a filmmaker, it's really competitive. But at the same time, this is also competitive in a different nature. This is more competitive because there's limited space. In terms of film, there's a lot of space there, but it's kind of who you know, and how you can push yourself through by knowing certain connections. And I guess you need connections here also, but to a much lesser extent. And I think also coaches are just kind of stressed about their colleagues and how they are perceived by their colleagues. Because I know a lot of coaches really care about what their colleagues think. And I remember I was at East LA College taking a class once, and there was a guy running for the department chair, and they had a faculty meeting, and he was telling me the story. And he was kind of ridiculed at the faculty meeting, and he was told that he wasn't doing anything productive in his classes whatsoever. So it's kind of knowing how to keep a balance. I think that's important. But, this physical educator was a great physical educator, but one of the coaches didn't like him at all and said that, you're just kind of making a 6-figure salary without doing the work. That's kind of how he put it. However, he's probably never taken a class of his or actually observed how his students operate, because if he had, he would be speaking a different tune. And I guarantee that, because he was a great coach. So let's see, the next question asks, identify specific means to prevent and treat these stressors. Well, I think that in terms of managing stress, it's really important to actually do some stress management techniques, because stress management is so incredible. I took a class as an undergrad. I took a class on stress management strategies and techniques. So I know that there are ways to control our stress. And, these have really to do with a more mental mindset and a physical mindset. I mean, I know that active exercise reduces stress. I mean, studies have proven that. And these textbooks that we've been reading, I mean, for example, last semester I took, it's just in front of me, so I'm just going to quote it. Last semester I took Advanced Principles of Physical Education or something like that, conditioning, and we use this book, and this book is all about discussing how exercise has been reduced with stress, and different kind of techniques that different kind of exercises that you should do, and all this is kind of working together to ultimately create a more efficient athlete. And this is a great book. But I also had another book that I wanted to share with you that I couldn't find, but it's on stress management strategies. And this book is kind of just gives you exercises to do. And these exercises are really just for you. And it's not intended to be judging you or in any way, shape, or form. It's really just there so you can personally kind of see where you're at and how you are as a human being, and kind of evaluate yourself. It kind of gives you the opportunity to see what you're doing in life and how you're doing it. So it's kind of telling you, how do you manage this? For example, how would you manage your time on doing this, and how would you rate yourself doing this? And, also, in order to reduce stress, you can also eat the right types of food, because there are foods that have been proven to reduce stress. More raw, natural foods have been proven to reduce stress in our body. Also participate, as I said earlier, in exercise activities such as running. I think that yoga is a great activity for reducing stress. I think that swimming reduces stress tremendously. I think that, any kind of sport that you're interested in will reduce stress. Getting that heart rate up. will take your mind off a lot of problems. And I mean, even if you have those problems, you just really think about it when you're exercising. Kind of makes for a better athlete, I think. I mean, don't want to exercise while you're under tremendous stress. That's not really an ideal thing. I mean, I personally don't like to exercise when I'm under tremendous stress, but that does fluctuate for different people. I guess some people like to really exercise to reduce stress. Some people don't like it at all. So, I mean, yeah, exercise is great. Yoga, breathing techniques, strategies, breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Stretching really works well. Static stretching, I think dynamic stretching also. So, you got to do what's right for you. So the next question asks, while most major translation of the Bible don't specifically use the word stress, Scripture does speak about anxiety, worry, and trouble and gives us clear answers on how we should deal with them. Jesus said, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat, or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Matthew 6.25, okay. So the question asks, considering these verses, what biblical advice can you integrate into your stress prevention and treatment? Well, I think that it's important to live in the present moment, okay? I think that it's really important to be engaged in what you're doing now, today, and not tomorrow, and not yesterday. I mean, you forget about the past, that's the past. The future is the future. But today is today, and I think you gotta focus on what you're currently doing. And I mean, there's so many people who focus about the future, and what am I gonna become, and what am I gonna happen tomorrow, and what's gonna happen. It'll all plan out. I mean, God has a plan for every single one of us. So I think that we have to just, sit back and let him take us through our paths, I think that we have to be critical thinkers. I mean, I think that everybody in this class are educated, well-educated, graduate students who kind of know what you're doing, and I think that it's important. And I mean, for me personally, I feel like it's really important for me just to sit back and just take it one day at a time. I mean, I do stress about school, I won't lie. There's a certain professor in our department, and I've taken her classes numerous times, who I really stress about. I mean, I try to do my best. I kind of write extensively, and I do stress a lot about school. But I'm also not trying to have it, think about the future. I mean, I think it's important to manage your time wisely, which is kind of, not ideal for me to say, because I'm kind of doing this at last minute. But at the same time, I've already been thinking about what I'm going to be saying in these videos for like the whole week. So I'm kind of already know what's going to be going on, So I'm kind of already giving myself enough time to think and reflect upon this stuff. But I mean, ultimately what I want to say is that you're going to have to live in the present moment. And then there's a great quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, where he says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And I thought I said the president. Okay, Eleanor Roosevelt. So yeah, I mean, you gotta treat today as a gift. Don't worry about tomorrow, and don't worry about yesterday. Just worry about today and the present moment. I think that will reduce stress tremendously. And thank you.